I wanted to make this film, but I wanted to explore loneliness in the city of 8 million people, of how like we got so many millions of people here in any big metropolitan area that you can feel so alone.
First started working on the script about, I don't know if it was 4 years ago, whatever. It seemed like it was a lot about like sort of a poem on loneliness in Los Angeles. And I think as it's evolved in his mind and as it continued to grow, I think it became a film deeply rooted in connecting.
I wanted to make a love story about the city that I live in, you know, but it's about, not like LA story, but I wanted to make a love story about the people who lives in the shadows. I came across an article in a newspaper that spoke about this hotel called the Saharan Motel, where LA's dreamers and transients come and live. That article really inspired me, and I said, there's something here, but I didn't know what yet. And that's when I checked into this motel, and I stayed there for about 2 months to kind of pound out the first treatment. Forrest is wonderful. I'm friends with Forrest. I've worked with Forrest before. And he was with me on this project from day one.
It was a long process to get the right cast in place to make it a special movie for Tim.
Tim wrote the script with Forrest in mind for the role of Charlie, and he brought the script to me, and we just started brainstorming about ideas for Rose Johnny and, you know, talked to them about Jessica Biel.
I had met Jessica. We had several meetings.
We sort of had this great connection, even from the first meeting that we had about this script, which I had like 2 or 3, just Tim and I, before everything was actually going to happen and we were actually going to make this movie, which almost felt like we were never going to make.
I assured her, you know, the intention of the character and why it was important and how it was going to be shot, and I included her in every step of the way to build that trust.
It's just felt really safe to just go for things that I normally wouldn't go for.
I met Ray at this Italian restaurant. I walked in there completely empty, except for one guy sitting in a corner. It was Ray Liotta. I'm like, whoa, this is like Goodfellas. It was his eyes, you know, and Jack was so much about the eyes. There's this internal calmness that I see, and I just felt like it would be really interesting to be able to take that energy that he normally exudes and kind of control it and bring it downwards, let him just play it through his eyes.
One of the main challenges was finding the right team to produce the movie with and to finance the film.
When we became involved with the project, Forrest Whitaker was already attached because Forrest is also a producer on the project and he had developed the script with Tim.
Because it is a smaller independent movie and the size cast we had and what Tim's vision was, we had to really logistically come together as a team.
It's a group of producers that all I think have like really unique strengths and have really made it happen.
Rose Johnny is a really strong, powerful woman who has had some bad fortune in her life. She's a professionally trained dancer, but she can't get a job. So she's never been to college and she doesn't have a really good education. So what do you do? And she's a stripper.
We hired a choreographer named Caddy Jean, who's very well known for her unique burlesque style to kind of create and choreograph this fabric dance sequence. And then we brought in this other choreographer named Karma Neff, and she's very good at like some floor stuff.
Physically, I had so much to do and so much to learn, and it was so much harder than I had ever imagined.
I didn't know she has a dance background. She was a dancer herself, and obviously she's very athletic. So the learning curve, I thought was going to take months. You know, it took weeks. She was like doing all these amazing moves on the fabric and just the sensuality that she was able to give on the floor.
I've gained such a greater respect for the women that actually do this for a living. It's so difficult. She meets Jack and she has this connection with this person, and it's kind of a tumultuous relationship.
Get your hands off me!
All right. But he wants to talk to her and he wants to communicate with her, and he makes her feel very safe instantly.
And action.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah, sure.
I see my father all the time.
Charlie is a priest. He was a priest. And he met a woman and fell in love with her. So he left the priesthood, and after leaving the priesthood, he married her, and on his wedding day, they had an accident, and she was killed. And he blames himself for her death, and doesn't feel like he has any reason to live, feels like he was being punished by God. He searches around Los Angeles to find someone who will end his pain and end his suffering, allow him to reconnect with his wife.
Oh, perhaps you've been drinking. Please, everything's gonna be all right.
I can pay you.
No.
I got $50,000 cash. What, you don't believe me? I'll show you.
Working with Forrest Whitaker is an actor's dream. That's what people like me get into this for. But he's so wonderful. He's so generous as an actor, also so instinctive. Like, he'll take the scene where he's feeling, which shakes it up so much because it doesn't get repetitive, and you're always forced to be in the moment.
No, please, come on! Shoot me! No!
Why? It's easy!
Sally seems to be the one character in this who is not fighting for her life, but just trying to be happy.
I had a really hard day.
Big smile like yours, you expect me to believe that?
He's just so down, he's just so burdened. And Sally feels like a lift.
That she's kind of crafting in this movie is a beautiful one, because she has so much hope, and she gives my character a lot of hope.
Rose Johnny loses her dog. Cordy actually finds this animal, and he reunites them. He reunites them, brings her dog Rudy back to her life. And it's like an instant connection between these two, these kind of kindred spirits who are sort of oddballs in society and kind of, more reserved, introverted people in some way.
QWERTY is an embalmer and a puppeteer. He comes from a family where he's been brought up doing this all his life, so he's lived this kind of slightly strange, slightly excluded existence, doing something that is thought of by society as being bizarre because it's dealing with death. He can perform in front of people. He can create things that enliven people's lives, and through grief particularly.
The scene that QWERTY and I share, where we hug each other, and he gives back my dog. That first meeting scene where we're in his kitchen, we're these two desperate people who just need this physical touch because they haven't had it in so long.
This idea of two insecure people finding something in the air is quite an amazing thing. The first thing Tim said to me is, "Don't ask me to shoot this movie anywhere else. I have to shoot in Los Angeles."
We had talked about it at different incarnations, about it shooting in different places, and it was like a physical impossibility. It was it was a part of the character of the movie.
It's about the shadows and the alleys. It's about the underbelly of that world that I wanted to capture, not the glitz and the glamour, but places that we drive by that we don't stop to kind of look into or investigate, that side of LA and its inhabitants.
The casting process was actually one of the most rewarding processes because that's where we found Alejandro, who plays Lexus. And literally, he was somebody that didn't have an agent, didn't have a manager, and he blew us away. To see him perform with Forrest was just amazing.
I used to love a man once, and I gave him my heart. I gave him my soul. I gave him my love. But that wasn't good enough for him.
We wanted a really seedy hotel of LA, and we shot at the Barclay Hotel in downtown, and that was be a location for Lexus. And everything was just like very practical lighting, but the walls and the colors were all like pastels and such beautiful saturated colors, and paint peeling off the walls, and there's so much texture.
If she ain't dead, she'd be out here on Friday night. Or at the Geisha Dungeon.
When Slim, or Or Charlie's character asks him, where do I find her? And he goes, at the geisha dungeon, you know? So we wanted a place that felt like that. And when we scouted this location, it was perfect because unlike other nightclubs, the ceilings were very low. So it felt very claustrophobic.
Double.
Hey, Eric.
Sexy.
Ladies, come on in. Fill it up in here. Rolling sound. Rolling sound, guys. A rolling sound.
We lit it purposefully very, just very dark, you know, and moody. And that's one of the things, is we weren't afraid of saying, you know what, we can't see their face, it was in shadows, let it be. You know, wherever there's light, let it spill out until it hits into the darkness.
It's a very stylized movie, there's no doubt. Jonathan Sela is one of the most talented DPs we've ever worked with.
The director of photography and Tim have a very specific vision, a very specific color palette to the film.
We broke down our color scheme, and we said, okay, the red hues are really going to be like the world of fantasy, and that's for like Rose Johnny's world. For Cordy, who represents the altruistic character, we lit him with a lot of blown out light, white light. We try to overexpose that. Charlie's world's where we have the yellows, most of the yellow hues, and in Jack's world we played with green and cyan.
It's what's owed to you, and everything you need to know.
Jonathan Sela is amazing, and he has contributed so much to the look of the movie.
The thing that's tough, I think, is going to be it's all 90% CG shot that starts on the snowflake that kind of comes down. So it starts out on the sky, that we're building this, and we just follow the snowflake all the way down and into the hands of Charlie.
That one camera shot at the church, when the camera comes around and it's the long crane shot, and just being out on that set was surreal because we took over, you know, 3 streets and we had a huge crew, and this probably 75-yard long crane, and the shot is just amazing.
I think it's very hopeful in the film when it starts to snow. For me, as a character, it's very magical.
One of the first questions I asked him is like, why the blue snow? And once Tim explained to me how important it is and the significance of it, I understood that it was something that is so necessary to get it right.
Well, we have a few different types of snow. We have some biodegradable type of snow that we've colored, and we also have some of the expanding snow that you might find at the mall. We take very large quantities of that, and we color that blue as well. And then the main snow that you'll see in the movie is actually real snow, which we use very large blocks of ice, and we send them through a chipper and then shoot them out onto the landscape, and then we color that with a food coloring dot. Nobody's really done blue or colored snow that I know of, and so it was something new and interesting. I got to try a lot of different things, had a lot of different things not work. I think burying Ray Liotta up to his neck in snow was pretty fun too. Not so much for Ray, but for us it was great.
It was probably the most fun to shoot, well, the most fun scenes to shoot in this film, and maybe in almost any of the other films that I've ever done before.
We were both kind of pinching ourselves, going, what are we doing? As we lay there, sort of over these stars, looking up at the stars as well as lying on them.
To just play like little kids and laugh and scream and let everything out. It just was a huge release.
And the whole thing with the shopping cart was a sense of innocence, you know, and I wanted to portray that in this world when everything is crashing around them, that they're able to find that innocence.
So it's like this issue of connection and of hope continues to ride through the whole film.
Allowing yourself to let go of things in the past that are holding you back.
Finding the courage to go on, to keep living, to keep working.
I mean, I think that's what one needs to do. You just keep going, especially if you know, you want to connect with someone.
The idea of fate in this film and of accident.
Powder blue to me was just, it was a hue. It was a color of an emotion. The quiet desperation that we have for connection. It's about the fear of loneliness. It's about guilt. It's about second chances. But most importantly, at the end of the day, it's about love.